Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rob. Before we begin, I just want to thank you all for spending your Saturday with us. I think the fact that you are here on a Saturday speaks volumes of the great things that you're going to go off and do and then bring back to the Valley. So thank you for that. Like you mentioned, my name is Rob. I teach for PSJA ISD, and I also teach for South Texas College. And I'm here today to share a story with you. And this story is a true story. And I know it's true because it's about me, right? And so the story begins with me in high school. I graduated in the year 2005, and I didn't graduate top of my class. I didn't graduate top 10%, top 20%, top 30%. 40%, 50%. In fact, I graduated at the bottom half of my class. So when I say that I graduated high school, that's not really accurate. What I should be saying is that I just got by high school. I didn't take any AP classes. I didn't take any college classes. I didn't do anything extraordinary when I was in high school. My main thing was just getting a 70 in my class, and that was it. I really didn't strive to be the best student or the best person. I just got by. So shortly after my graduation, that's when reality set in, the summer after I graduated high school, because I realized that I needed to do something with my life, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Many of my friends were off applying to colleges, and they were actually getting accepted and going into colleges, and so I decided I'd do the same thing. So the summer after I graduated, I applied to many different colleges and universities around the state of Texas and even outside the state. And weeks passed, and I remember I got a bunch of letters in the mail from all these colleges and universities, and every single letter said the same thing. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for applying, but after reviewing your application, you've been denied/rejected. And I didn't get into any single college or university out of high school. I got rejected from every single one. But that was expected because I didn't do anything special in high school. You see, in high school, I only took one test, and that was the ACT. Till this day, I've never taken an SAT. So I have no SAT score. I never took any college entrance exam. All I did was just take an ACT when I think I was a sophomore or a junior. I don't really remember, and my score was a 13. And till this day, if you look up my record, if you look up my name on the ACT website, you will see that I have a 13. I've never retaken it. I never bothered to retake it. And so I didn't do anything to stand out on paper. And on these college applications, that's all they look for is who stands out on a piece of paper, and I didn't. So it was no surprise that I got rejected from a bunch of these colleges and universities. So then I decided, well, there was no chance in me leaving the Valley. I was going to have to stay home and go to school here. So I applied to the University of Texas Pan American, and within a week later, I got a letter in the mail from UTPA rejecting me. Here I was, a kid born in the Valley, raised in the Valley, but yet couldn't get accepted or couldn't get into his own local university. And that was embarrassing, and I was ashamed, but most of all, I was hurt. And I didn't tell anybody that. When people asked me, why don't you just go to UTPA? I made up some lies saying that I didn't want to go. In reality, it was I couldn't go. So I had to start off at community college, and I started off at South Texas Community College. It's now known as South Texas College. Well, I applied, and within a couple of days later, I got a letter in the mail saying that I was accepted. And I was really, really happy to be accepted into South Texas Community College. I finally felt like I was a part of something. I finally felt like I had maybe found my place. But most of all, I had hope. A couple of days after that, I found out that apparently anybody gets accepted into community college. So my acceptance wasn't anything special, but it was special to me. So when I started taking these classes, they told me, well, Rob, you cannot take college classes yet. You have to take these developmental remedial classes. And so I was sitting there at the age of 18, and I couldn't even take a college class yet because of the horrible job I had done in high school. So I had to take these remedial classes, these developmental classes, and it wasn't until the age of 20 years old that I finally took my first college class. Now I look around this room, and many of you are in high school, and many of you are between the ages of 16 and 18, and you all have already taken several college classes, a couple of AP classes. And you're at that age. I didn't take my first class until I was about 20 years old. So that's impressive. And I tell my students this all the time, because a lot of my students will say, well, sir, like, I look up to you, I admire you, you inspire me, Mr. Barrera. But here's the truth, and I'm going to tell you all, because I tell my students this all the time. The truth is, you all inspire me, and I look up to you all, and you all motivate me to do better. Because I could not do the things that you all are doing when I was your age. Right? So that is impressive, and I think you all deserve a round of applause for that. So I think you should give yourselves a round of applause for that. So at the age of 20, I started taking real college classes, and I had to work my way through college. You see, I didn't qualify for scholarships, I didn't qualify for grants or any of that. I barely had enough financial aid to cover some of my classes, so I had to get a job and work my way through college. And I decided that if I was going to pay my way through college, then I was going to make the most of it. So what I started to do was I started to study, and I started to study really hard. And one grade turned into another grade, and these grades that I was receiving were A's. So one A turned into another A, turned into another A, and by the time you knew it, I was being invited to join the National Honor Society at South Texas College, and I had a 4.0 GPA. And I couldn't believe it. What I couldn't do in high school, I was doing now. And I ended up graduating with my associate's degree at the age of 23. Some of you are going to be graduating with your associates before you even get your high school diploma. And that's impressive. And so at the age of 23, I graduated. Now let me tell you how I graduated high school. In high school, when I marched and I walked, I just had a regular cap and gown. I didn't have anything fancy around my neck. I didn't have any fancy regalia, any fancy ropes, any fancy medals. I didn't graduate with any awards at all. But when I graduated from South Texas College, I finally got to put a medal around my neck. I finally got to wear a rope. I didn't look like every other graduate. I stood out. And that meant a lot to me. So at the age of 23, after I graduated from South Texas College, I then applied to UTPA, and I was finally accepted into UTPA. And so that felt really good. I finally was able to walk the halls of the university and take courses there. And I took the same mentality with me that I had at STXi to UTPA. And that was to work hard, but study even harder. And I did. And I worked and I worked and I'd study. And I remember I would lock myself in my room at home and I'd spend hours just studying, trying to know everything about everything. So one of my professors noticed my dedication and pulled me aside one semester and said, I'd like you to apply to Rice University. And I remember I looked at her and I smiled and I said, with all due respect, I couldn't even get into UTPA and you want me to apply to Rice University. And she said, I want you to apply. It's a summer program and you can take college classes there in the summer and you do research and then you can come back and finish here. Now, I didn't want to apply because I was afraid to fail. Everything had been going so good so far for me that I was afraid to get something that was going to tell me you're not good enough. So I applied anyway, and I guess I got lucky because I got accepted. And I got sent off to Rice for a summer, and I got to spend my summer there at Rice University taking college courses there on campus, but also doing research in mathematics. And it was there that I realized that I really, really want to become a teacher, because I met a lot of students who were just like me, and I felt, well, maybe this is my chance to give back. So when I came back from Rice University, I finished off my years there at UTPA. I had about a semester left. And I graduated UTPA with a 4.0 and with honors. The university that once rejected me was now graduating me with honors. And it felt good. And I couldn't be happier. And once again, I had some medals and some ropes and some fancy regalia around my neck. I wasn't just In the crowd, I stood out. And so that felt really good. Shortly after I graduated from UTPA, I got hired to teach mathematics with PSJA. And it was there that I met a lot of kids who were exactly like me. And I got to share my story with them. And I got to see them. I started to see these kids change. I started to see these kids grow right before my eyes, and it felt good. Well, 2 months into my first year as a teacher, my principal approaches me and asks me if I'd like to earn a master's degree. And I tell her, yes, I'd love to earn a master's degree. And I asked her, when is the deadline for UTPA? She said, no, Mr. Barrera, this is not through UTPA, this is through Harvard University. When she told me that, I think my brain got the word Harvard and transformed it and said, oh, hard university. Because to me, that's what it sounded like. And I remember I just told her, you know what, no thank you, I don't want to go, it's going to be too hard, and obviously I'm going to get rejected. And she said, no, I'd like you to apply anyway, you should really look into it. So I remember I went home, I talked about it with my family, my friends, and even my colleagues, and I would ask them, what do you think? And I got the same response. And the response was, well, what do you have to lose? If I apply and don't get in, no harm, no foul. I'm in the same place I was before I applied. So I decided to take a chance and apply anyway. And so I applied to Harvard for that master's program. And I remember a week passed by and I hadn't heard anything, and 2 weeks passed by and I hadn't heard anything. And I was getting very, very nervous. And I just kind of thought, oh, they rejected me. And a couple of months later, I got an email and I read the subject line and I knew what the email was about. And I remember I closed my eyes and I prayed hard and I just said, whatever will be, will be. And I opened up the email and I started reading it as fast as I could, trying to rip it off like a Band-Aid. And nowhere in that email did I see the word rejected, denied. I never saw that. So then I read the email again because I really didn't read it the first time. I was just looking for those two words. And as I read the email, all the email said was thank you, and that they'd like to set up an interview with me. And I got really excited because I didn't get rejected. And after the excitement settled down, then I realized, well, wait a second, the email never said that I was accepted either. Maybe they want to reject me in person, right? So I thought, oh, wow, okay, so I have an interview. What do I say? What do I do with my hands? Because for some reason, I never know what to do with my hands. And do I stand like this? How is this interview going to work? So I remember as I was getting ready for the interview was about a week later. I sat down in front of a committee and they started asking me questions and I started answering those questions. And the interview was going great. I was making them laugh. I was telling them jokes. I was scoring points, right? And then the question came up about my qualifications. And that's where the interview kind of took a turn. Because to be qualified for this program, I had to have 2 years of teaching experience under my belt, and I only been teaching for 2 months. So immediately I was disqualified from entering the program. And they shared that with me in the interview. And there was nothing that I could do because that was out of my control. I mean, maybe 2 years later I could come back and apply to Harvard, and then maybe I could get in. But there was a woman there by the name of Dr. Mary Alice Reyes, and she looked at me, and I don't know what it is that she saw in me, but she saw something, and she didn't want to let me go out that door without giving me a chance. And she tells me this, she's like, Juan, I'm going to give you a chance. Even though you don't qualify for the program, I can't let you walk out that door. Your college transcript is remarkable. There's not a B on your college transcript. It's nothing but A's. And even though you don't have the teaching experience, I believe that there's something there for you. I could not have been more thrilled. From getting rejected from university to university, from college to college, I couldn't get into my own local university, and here I was being given a chance at Harvard University. So I took the chance, I went with it, and I started taking college courses. And by all means, it was not easy. It was very, very challenging. I spent a lot of time away from family and friends. I spent most of my time behind a desk and a computer studying, and it was the best experience of my life because I learned a lot. At the age of 28, I'm happy to say that I graduated with my master's degree in mathematics for teaching from Harvard University with a 4.0 GPA, and I was awarded class marshal, and I graduated at the top of my class. So what I did not do in high school, I was doing now. And till this day, if you ask me, sir, how did you get in? I don't know, because my ACT score is still the 13 that it was in high school. My SAT score, never took it. And I never took any college entrance exam. So if you ask me, how do I get into Harvard? I'm going to tell you to get a 13 on your ACT score, because that's what I did. But in all honesty, I really don't know. I like to say that I was blessed and that I was lucky and I was given a chance. And with that chance, I made the most of it. And many of you are going to be given chances in your lives, and you need to make the most of them. And so when I got an email a couple months ago to come and speak to you all, the idea was to give you a message. And so as I close here, I want you to think about the message I'm about to tell you. And the message is really not my story. The message is that each and every one of you has a story. Whether you're currently writing your story or whether you will eventually write your story, each and every one of you will have a story to tell. You will have a story to share. And my message is to make that story the best damn story you can make it. Because you are the main character of your own story. And you want that story to be amazing, right? But more important than that, make sure you come back and share your story. Because your story can instill hope. Your story can inspire others. And I hope you really take that in, and as you go off into the world, that you really think about that. And if you fail, don't worry. That makes your story better. Because it's those failures that really, really, really make a story amazing. Because it's how you react after the failure, right? It's what you do after you fail that really ties your story together. Thank you.